Everybody, I'm Den Haring. Welcome back to my channel, Fish Den 365, and welcome back to Topwater Tuesday! Today, we've got a really good one for you. We're going to show you a real simple hack, a fluke hack. A hack that I do with fluke-style baits that makes topwater fishing very simple, and it's really easy to catch fish this way. It's a great technique for kids to use, people that are new to fishing, but it works just as well for expert level fishermen as well. This thing catches a lot of fish, and I'm looking forward to showing it to you coming up. Okay, so the hack is this. You want to get, I buy these from Owner. It's called a centering pin spring, CPS. Hopefully you can see that in the palm of my hand. It's called a centering pin spring, and I find so many uses for these things. They sell, I think, 3 different sizes. Owner does. There's other companies that make these too. Usually I use the smallest and the medium size for most of my applications. In this particular case, I usually like the smallest size the best because of what I'm doing with it. So what I'll do is I'll take my fluke style bait. Now this one just happens to be a different one. This one is a Demiki armor shad. Now I generally like these little baits with a little belly in them, like the armor shad here. See that little belly? Why do I like that? Because it has a little more weight. It's a little easier to throw with your spinning outfit or your BFS rod. But what we do, and I'm just going to come closer here to show you this, is we're going to take this pin and just put it into the bait. You stick it in there as straight as you can, and then you're just going to turn it until it's fully in the lure, in the bait, all the way through. At some point, I'm going to need a pliers. All right, I'm back. I'm going to put it so that the entire pin is just inside the nose of the bait. And then I'm going to get the appropriately sized hook. This is a small bait, so I'll probably pick a small hook. This one is a red hook, and I'll just stick it through the plastic of the bait and through the eye of that spring. Now it can't come out. Look at that. It ain't coming out of there. And that's the simple rig. Now you just tie this on to your line. Usually this is a light line technique when you're using a smaller bait like this. I'll use a 6-pound, 8-pound test. And I've got myself a killer topwater lure that I can fish a number of different ways. You can't fish this thing wrong. It looks so natural in the water. You just throw it out there, and without any weight on it, you can just skitter it along the surface. You just twitch your rod tip, skitter along, stop, and it'll just stop, and it'll slowly sink down. You skitter along, comes right back up to the surface. You can make it look like an injured bait fish this way. And it's a cheap way of catching a lot of fish with a topwater lure. You don't have to spend any money. You know, you spend, all it costs is the cost of a few hooks, which you probably have anyway. The centering pins are real cheap. And these fluke style baits, especially the original Zoom flukes, are cheap as well. So this is a real nice way to create yourself a good topwater lure without breaking the bank. And it's as effective as any other topwater lure I've used. These things are smallmouth killers, especially when you have clear water environments and river environments as well. The Delaware River, I'm sure this would work in the Schuylkill and Susquehanna as well. It is just a really good bait to throw for smallmouth bass. I've had a video that I made a few years back where I just caught the fire out of them from shore, just walking the banks in the Delaware. I'll link that video up here so you can take a look at it if you'd like to see it. But this rig is very simple. And it's easy to use. You can't really fish it wrong. You throw it out there, and this thing just looks, when it's out there in the water, it just looks like a minnow, just a little bait fish. Now there's different ones you can do this with, right? I like to do it on these fluke baits, just a little bit bigger bait than the armor shad. But you can choose your size. You just want to choose the appropriate hook. Here's one that I have set up for a regular size super fluke. And this thing has caught me a bunch of fish. This is already rigged up. I just used it some time ago and left it rigged up. And if you looked at the nose of the bait, you would see that it's pretty beat up. It's because I caught fish, but it won't come out. And what I did with this one is I just have the appropriate size hook, a little bit bigger hook than for a smaller bait. But you can make this thing dance along the surface, and then when you kill it, it just slowly goes down. Now, if you wanted to stay on the surface, you can choose a floating fluke. This is the Z-Man Elastec style of a fluke bait. The Elastec material floats, so that would actually stay on the surface and look like a half-dead bait fish when you've got that centering pin with that front hook arrangement. So you can keep it on the surface by choosing the bait that you fish. But I just as much like to have a regular fluke on there. If it goes down a little bit and then I pop it and it comes right back up, then I'm just getting the fish's attention that way as well. Now you can use this arrangement on these. These are the little Lunker City finesse fish here, and they come in really small sizes. But the same technique will work. You can put that little centering pin in there and have a smaller bait. This will catch crappie or bass when there's a lot of little fry in the water. The only thing about this is the smaller you go, the lighter it is. It might be a little hard to get a long cast in. But even there, you can stick a little nail weight in these guys, like through the back, through the belly or through the back on the top. And now you'll be able to cast this thing, and it looks just as real in the water, especially with that tail wiggling around. So you could always use a nail weight to add a little bit of weight on these smaller ones if you need it. You could also use this with the Berkeley Gulp type minnows as well. If you want a little bit of scent on your bait, you can pick up the Gulp minnow, put that screw eye in there, hook the hook through it, and now you can throw it on the Gulp as well. So, you know, any one of these minnow style or fluke style baits can be utilized with this technique. Or even the straight tail shads. Those will work as well. Here's another bait that I like to fish it on, the Yum Houdini shad. It's got that real narrow tail with a flat spade shape, a little bit of a different action on the water. It's always good to experiment with the different types of fluke baits. But there's a lot you can do with this particular technique. One other hack that I'll mention is sometimes after you catch a bunch of fish, this can start loosening up on the hook and move around in a way that you might not want it, like that. So what you can do is, before you put this hook through this bait, is you would put a little bobber stop through the hook, right through the point. The point would go right through the bobber stop, and then you could put your bobber stop down the hook a little bit, run this through your bait, and then that bobber stop will be here to stop the bait from sliding down. So that's another little hack to keep the bait exactly where you want it on the hook. Usually when you first hook it on there, you don't have to do that, but after several catches, it starts to loosen up a little bit, and it may be something that you can do to keep it on there a little better in the position that you want it. Well, that's the hack for this week's Topwater Tuesday. An easy way to fish, but boy, does it catch a lot of fish. It's extremely effective. And you know, one of the things you might wonder is how well this setup hooks the fish. And what I found was it hooks it very well. It's a small hook, it's hooked in the head, but almost every time you have a bass attacking this bait, it goes for the head. There's actually video out there that shows that. The guys at Tactical Bassin have some video that show how well and how effective these nose hooking this bait can be, and how the fish typically go for the head, and you almost catch every single one. And once that hook is in their mouths, it's not coming out. It's light, and it's very simple to land the fish. You just have to, you know, take it easy on it if you're using lighter line. But this is a great technique to use. You know, I like to throw it in more open water when there's like maybe a topwater bite going on. You have the fish are feeding up, or over weed beds, that kind of thing. It's just an excellent technique, and it catches a lot of fish, and it'll catch big fish too. Well, that's this week's Topwater Tuesday tip. I hope you get out there and give this a try. I promise you, if you try this, you'll catch fish with it. All right, keep it tuned here. We'll have some more stuff coming up. I've caught a 41-pound flathead catfish over the weekend. I'll get the footage on that hopefully by the end of this week, so you can see that. It was unbelievable. Keep it tuned here for more, for that one and more. And as always, may God bless your fishing endeavors.